Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate you carving out some time for us today. I know schedules are busy and hectic, so we really appreciate the time this afternoon. My name is Patrick Nguyen, and I'm one of our national account managers here at Hayes. And this is our fifth and final stop of the virtual Roadshow tour here. We'll be discussing, sharing, and really just having an open dialogue on best practices for really full lifecycle management of your district's technology assets. So I'll be sort of guiding this conversation that we'll be having with our special guest, which I'll introduce here momentarily. But we'd love to hear from you, the audience, as well. So we're here to exchange ideas, share. So feel free to type in questions or comments into the chat box, which my colleague Chris is actually moderating. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I am Chris McDowell. I'm one of the national account managers here at Hayes. I've been with the company coming up on 3 years, and I cover several states up in the Pacific Northwest and Rocky Mountain West. So I will be, as Patrick said, I'll be monitoring the chat. We want to make this kind of a two-way thing as much as we can. That's how these things work the best. So please feel free to enter any questions in the chat, and I'll make sure that we get them answered in our forum. But thank you for joining us today.
All right, thanks, Chris. All right, so just a brief background on Hayes for those of you who aren't as familiar. We were actually founded 30 years ago by Gene Hayes, who's a school district administrator who realized that districts needed help managing textbooks back in 1990. And as education evolved, that need developed into a desire to help with technology assets. And so we developed a separate application for that, to help track Chromebooks and iPads, networking equipment, other non-capital assets. And fast forward to today, and we serve nearly 8,000 schools from, single-site charter schools with enrollments of 200, all the way up to 35 of the 100 largest districts across the nation. So the solution is truly scalable and customized, and we can really afford to do that because we're agile to hone in specifically on what the schools and districts actually want, and then from there just really develop and enhance features based on what they actually need. So what you see here are 5 probably most common challenges or pain points that really serve as the motivation, right, for districts to either reach out or just seek help and just find a better solution. So that's really what we're trying to solve for here, really just minimizing a lot of the slow, manual, inefficient, labor-intensive and time-consuming processes that you really shouldn't be involved with anymore, right, given the technology and resources that are available today. And as nearly every district now is one-to-one, almost overnight, it's a situation that requires a lot more oversight because devices are spread out everywhere now in the hands of students for an extended period of time. But yet the resources that a lot of districts have in place just aren't properly equipped to get that extra oversight. So it's just even more crucial to understand today, where a Chromebook is, who it's checked out to, who had it in the past, maybe where it's been, what repairs has it been through. And so with that, one of the districts that we currently serve is actually kind enough to join us today. Specifically their Technology Director, Huy Tran, and I will let him introduce himself. Huy?
Oh, well, good afternoon. As Patrick said, my name is Huy Tran. I am the Director for Technology Services for Cherry Creek School District. I've been in this role for about a year. Previously served as their Service Delivery Manager for a couple of years. So I've been with the district going on year 4. Previously, I was a Global Support Manager for VMware, and before that, I managed field IT operations for Comcast Spotlight's West Division. And before that, I was kind of in the military doing all kinds of other stuff. Did a couple of stints with the Secret Service. I was previously, as I was mentioning before the meeting, I was in the medical field for about 10 years as well. So. And that's me in a nutshell, and we're out of Denver, Colorado.
Cool. Sounds like you've done it all. All right. So, and the district specifically is Cherry Creek, as we mentioned, out in Colorado. As you can see here, they're not a small district. So Huy, would you like to maybe give it a little bit of background into sort of what technology looks like there, and maybe give us some insight into the people you work with?
Right. So as you can see the slide, we're about 55,000 students. We're fairly flat for now. About 8,500 to 9,000 staff members servicing 70 plus buildings. And located at Denver, Colorado. We are mainly a Windows shop. And so all of our devices are Dell Windows devices that are enrolled in Intune. But we are decentralized, and we do allow some schools to continue to provide Chromebooks or purchase Chromebooks. Our last refresh was in 2017, so before, schools had the option of pretty much buying whatever they wanted, and what they would do was just augment what the district purchased for them en masse every 4 years. The annual, or I won't say annual, the 4-year bond refresh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the partnership with Hayes started just after that, right?
Correct. In 2017, we were doing our 4-year refresh, spending about $12 million. So 22,000 Windows devices for students, 4,500 Microsoft Surfaces for our staff members, and then another 3,000 to 5,000 for our labs, and then all those carts. So what started the conversation was our CIO, our new CIO, was hesitant about buying $12 million worth of equipment and just giving it to the school and say, here you go manage it. So he wanted to have more of a centralized ability to inventory and track assets, versus the schools having different spreadsheets. And the other troublesome or concern he had was that some of our schools don't even have techs. They have a tech teacher who gets an hour a day to be their tech.
Wow.
So that's us in a nutshell.
Okay, appreciate that context. Yeah, so the big picture here, sort of holistically, is we want to help give you insight, right? Insight and transparency into really the full life cycle of the assets you're tracking, from procurement to disposal and really everything in between. So that includes distributing, supporting, maintaining, collecting, and even forecasting down the road. And throughout this process, it's vital just to have clean, accurate data. There's a lot of movement, especially at a district the size of Cherry Creek's. Mobile devices are highly walkable, or high pilferage, as some say, especially now, right, when things are leaving campus literally by design. So sometimes you don't even know something's missing until it's too late, and that's exactly what you don't want. So today, more so now than ever, it's just really crucial to understand what you have, where it's at, and not just for the technology department, but also maybe business and finance as they budget, as they forecast, and most importantly for the students, just to make sure that they have what they need in order to learn, that they're not being limited by some logistical shortcoming, if you will. So what goes hand in hand oftentimes with tracking devices is supporting these things as well, right? You want an efficient help desk ticketing system, which we'll touch on in a bit. But back to you, Hui, quick question for you, and you might have to rewind the clock a few years here, but what would your world look like there at Cherry Creek without having a system in place like TipWeb to track and manage all these devices?
Well, so we are not one-to-one. We're kind of a one device to every 2.25 students. And so that's kind of the ratio we had with our budget in 2017. And I would say this, that even without having any tracking or having to rely on schools to track their devices would have been a nightmare. Again, some of our schools are really good. Our high schools have techs, dedicated techs, but a lot of our elementary schools, they don't have a tech. Their office manager is responsible for tech. And I can only imagine an office manager trying to do their job in addition to inventory management. That's just not in there. There's not enough resources to do that.
Yeah, certainly not enough bandwidth, but it's unfortunately a story that we hear way too often. Too many hats. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we look to the future, we are looking at getting closer to one-to-one. And it's not just one-to-one. Previously, since we were not one-to-one, the students only had access to technology in the classroom. So due to COVID, we've actually distributed 7,000 devices. So how do you do that on a spreadsheet, right? You don't.
Yeah, that's a lot of cells.
Right. So definitely TipWeb has definitely helped us manage that even distribution of 7,000 devices over the last, I'd say 2 months.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I could add a little to that if that's all right. So,
Sure. Go ahead, Nick.
Manager.
yeah, my name is Nick Stevens. I work for We. I manage the service desk and the field team. So, and yeah, without TipWeb, it would have been really difficult. We had to make that transition. Probably like a lot of school districts, we were given a week's notice to say, okay, you're going to go virtual. You're going to have e-learning now, and starting in a week or two. And as we said, we're not one-to-one today, but we had a lot of laptops and devices in our schools that we decided very quickly we want to get those out and give them to students who needed them. As we said, we distributed about 7,000 devices. And with TipWeb, we were able to go in and see exactly what schools had what device, where they were, what kind they were. We were able to get them out. And then literally over a week's period, maybe 2 weeks, we got those out and we distributed them and assigned them in TipWeb to students. So today we know exactly which student has them, the status of them. When we have to swap them out, we can pull it in TipWeb to see the status of it, put it in repair, give them another one, assign it. So old way in a spreadsheet, that would have been virtually impossible. But because we do have TipWeb integrated, or syncing, I should say, with PowerSchool. So every day we get a refresh of what students are actually current. We could see, is this student active, quickly assign them, scan the device, assign it to them in TipWeb. So that it really made it possible, it really accelerated that process, which would have been a complete nightmare if we didn't have it.
Right. And that integration was vital, especially for seniors who got devices and are leaving the district. Right. So who got a device? Well, first of all, who was a senior, who got a device, and hey, you got to get that back now since you're leaving. So I can only imagine trying to do that on a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what system, if any, did you have in place pre-2017? Was it
Excel and Google Sheets?
Okay.
Depending on what school wanted to use.
Okay. Like it was really decentralized back then.
Very decentralized.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious, so along with PowerSchool, are there any other integrations with TipWeb that you have, any other third-party systems?
Not at this time, but we are looking to update our ERP system into Oracle. So some integration may happen there.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Nick. And Chris, we doing okay in the chat box?
Yeah, okay so far. As asked to hear about anyone else's processes currently for tracking their devices, and we'll see if anybody wants to share anything from there.
Cool, sounds good. So now, as we mentioned and as we discussed, there's simply a lot of logistical challenges, right, associated with tracking, distributing, collecting, especially when you're one-to-one with staff and students. So the way that we can help specifically is helping keep the full ownership history of each device, right? So each time was checked out, check back in when that was done, who did it, anytime a device was transferred, sent in for repair, as Nick alluded to, all that information gets saved, right? There's no limit to this history, so you really get the complete and comprehensive picture. When a device does get checked out, it's actually done through a digital signature, and you can also assign default accessories to certain assets as well, right? So chargers, cases, some of these lower dollar things that you may not want to tag necessarily, but are still important because in totality, the cost does add up, right? What good is a Chromebook if the battery's dead, right? So this information it's all reportable as well. You can run ownership reports to see which students have what device, obligation reports to see who hasn't checked something back in. And these reports can be automated as well, sent to other departments if necessary. They don't have to be a TipWeb user. So you can send these weekly or monthly. And so again, just going back to the theme of eliminating a lot of these manual processes that tend to slow you down.
Right, and so a couple of things that are unique to Cherry Creek that TipWeb has helped us with is that we have a transitions program. and it's for our gifted students that aren't completely special needs, but they're not in the normal classroom. And so the program allows us to give them some skills in either culinary or some life skills in technology. And so all of our assets don't go straight to e-waste recycling company. They go to the transition group, and they actually disassemble all the computer desktops, the laptops, into the components, hard drives, video adapters, RAM. So they separate all that for our e-waste recycling program. One, it gives them some life skills, how to manipulate tools, follow instructions, and then lastly, some of those employees, some of those students have become employed by that e-waste recycling company. So that is very unique to Cherry Creek. And then two, without TipWeb, before what we would have is there was no real good communication between schools of, hey, I have extra equipment that I don't need anymore. What do I do with it? So with TipWeb, it's been very beneficial for us to take a look at what's being asked to be recycled and getting it back into IT, tested, and then throwing it back onto our surplus store, where schools can just go there, look at the catalog and say, hey, I want this item, this item, this item. And that's where we've kind of saved about $30,000 in the first 6 months of deploying TipWeb. So being able to track our surplus or have a surplus store option has been definitely beneficial to the district.
Yeah, and how long have you had that program where they sort of break everything down to the parts? That seems pretty unique.
Yeah, we've had that before I've been here. So I want to say 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
And so that led to, you said $30,000 in just repurposing towards?
Well, that's the surplus store, right? Okay. That's getting assets in. Before, if a school would reach out to the other tech and say, hey, do you need stuff? And either people didn't respond or they didn't really know. Again, some schools don't have tech, so they weren't aware. And so what would happen is that equipment, sometimes brand new, never touched, went to the transitions program to be dismantled to the component part and then just recycled. So now we know what's being asked to be recycled, and we can test it and put it back into the system, or we can just send it to our transitions program to be disassembled.
Okay, gotcha. That's really cool. All right, now when it comes to help desk ticketing there at Cherry Creek, and again, I know you haven't quite transitioned to our application yet, but just curious from your point of view, what's it been like over the past few months from the help desk standpoint, now that the landscape has changed?
I'm going to let Nick talk about that. Nick, he directly manages that group.
All right, you're up, Nick.
Yeah, it's been a challenge because we're directly supporting different population. Typically, most of the schools or a lot of the schools have a technical lead of some sort, but then virtually overnight, everyone transitioned from e-learning, learning from home. So just because we do have a central help desk, we've taken a lot of that traffic on. When we distributed those 7,000 devices, we included with it a support email address, so parents or students could then just email us, and we'd actually open a ticket directly in our ticketing system, not yours, unfortunately. Yeah, it's made us look at different types of problems we're getting, trying to deal with variables outside of our control. I can't log in, I don't have network. Well, you're at home, so is your Wi-Fi working? Is your local network up? Things like that, that we've had to quickly adapt to. And I say on top of that, our own department had to adapt as well, because we're used to being in the office. And again, virtually in a 2-week period, we had to go from working in the office to working remotely, as did our students at the same time. So we were dealing with transitions on a lot of different levels. So it was pretty challenging. In terms of our ticket volume, it pretty much quadrupled overnight. We typically handle around 800 or so incidents a week, about average, and we were getting close to 4,000 for about a month period. It was, and our staff didn't quadruple. So yeah, so it was definitely a challenge. Again, having, TipWeb and having known what device was where was definitely helpful. As we mentioned, we haven't made that transition yet to get help. I think, we can definitely see the benefits of that, having that piece of integration would definitely help us, especially as we get closer to one-to-one.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, hey, Nick, there's a question about parents submitting help desk tickets. How do we do that? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so like I said, we didn't, we made the decision not to give out our phone number, even though it's, I have to, and this was kind of funny, but we didn't give out our phone number, but we were getting calls from parents and students. And we realized that all these student devices that we gave out to our kids, they all have our Cherry Creek asset tag in the back with our phone number right on it at the help desk. So kind of inadvertent there. So we set up what we wanted people to do. When we gave out the devices, it was in a little bundle. We had to go through the whole process because we pulled them out of their shared cart. We had to sanitize them. We had to clean them. We put them in a plastic bag with the AC adapter. We also put a couple things in there. One was a one-page, or it was actually a two-page kind of cheat sheet about how to log on from home, how to attach your local Wi-Fi, typical common issues you get. At the top, though, it had our email address, which we set. I think it was studentdevsupport@cherrycreekschools.org. And what that did is, if any emails going to that, would automatically generate a ticket in our ticketing system. So that's how we would take care of those. Yeah, and that's how we dealt with it. So any issues that came in, and we got quite a few to begin with. Like I said, our call volume really went way up. Generally, our help desk tried to resolve any issues up front. We would triage it, try to help them as we could. If it required more of that, we would refer it to the school's tech if they had one. Where it got interesting is in device swaps. So, we weren't really doing a whole lot of troubleshooting. We have some common issues with like Wi-Fi and stuff with this particular model of Dell laptops we have, where we try to walk through. But if there's any type of hardware issue, we would just swap it. And what we did, because typically our team would be constantly going out into the schools, pretty much daily, going around picking up devices, repairing them, bringing back. But we were all locked down, and we decided we're not going to go out to the student's home. So in our central IT department building, we set up a process for doing basically hot swaps, and it was a drive-through process. So in the ticket, we would put in, come to our ISF building. When you get there, come to the side door, call this number. Someone will come down with a mask, come right to your car, and swap out your device right on the fly. So we tried to minimize the interaction between parents and students. And we actually expanded that to our staff as well, since we weren't going to our administration buildings. Everyone was working from home. If they had a hardware issue of any sort, same process. They come to our building, call the number, we come out and do a curbside service. So that's how we were dealing with those issues.
Okay. And how big is the IT department there at Cherry Creek?
Well, what about 60 something? 66?
Overall, we're fully strength. We're about 65, but we're at 60.
Okay.
Well, actually, we're at 60. We're at 59 because of your one now, Nick. So.
Right. In my department, there's 15 of us, including myself, between the field techs who go out to the schools on a regular basis, and the help desk people that answer the phones, handle all the tickets.
And we have one app coordinator included in that group.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Okay. So, and with Get Help and TipWeb IT, as some of you may know, they integrate together, right? So they speak to each other. They share the same database, minimizes a lot of those perhaps unnecessary steps when jumping back from one application to another. It's kind of tricky when you have two disparate systems, when you need to manage as well as simultaneously support the same assets. So Get Help, our ticketing system, it's a cloud-based system. So it's really a seamless transition from whether it's on-site learning or blended learning or maybe just completely distance learning, whatever that decision ends up being down the road. You have access to a knowledge base to help end users solve tickets on their own before it actually reaches the technician. to save you time. Now we have ticket routing to help these tickets get to the right maybe person or service groups, enhance efficiency that way. And then of course, various problem types which are customizable that allow you to incorporate other departments, maybe maintenance, if that's something that's applicable. And then reporting analytics to help you derive meaningful data based on the tickets that are being sent in, resolved, average open time, things like that. So on top of that, there's multiple ways for whether it's staff, students to ask for help. Technicians can create a ticket from scratch. The end user can submit a ticket through the email, or you can also sign on to the staff or student portal. So that's made a little bit more convenient with our SSO integration with Google. So really multitude of ways to ask for help as an end user. Now, pivoting a bit here and sort of taking a step back as we think about the big picture, we'd love to get your insight, Hui and maybe Nick as well, just sort of overall into how you guys are planning for the fall. I'm sure things are fluid, but I'm kind of curious what's it been like, how are you getting maybe with other departments?
What we're doing is, so the 7,000 devices. So when we did the distribution, we kind of look at the numbers that we needed. And what we did was we took from our high school and middle school campuses because they have the largest concentrations. And we have 6 of those locations or those campuses throughout the district. So what we did is we pulled from each of those. And the parents, families could go to the closest one, right, of their feeder school. So if their elementary fed into the middle school fed into their high school, that's the school that we told them to go get their device from. So when we pulled the 7,000, that's where the 7,000 came from. So going into the new year, what we're going to do is allow those 7,000 that are out in the system, except for the seniors that have left, we're going to allow those students to keep them because we don't know what the new school year is going to look like. So that those 7,000 that are out will stay there with the families. What we've done now is ordered an additional 18,000 laptops that are coming in August. So we're going to be busy in August right before school if they come in on time. And we're going to take 7,000 of them, place them back into the carts, into the schools where they came from. So that way, if we do have a hybrid solution for school or e-learning, those schools will have assets to work from. And then the other 10,000 we plan on using to basically go back out to the schools or back out to the families for our free and reduced families.
Gotcha. Okay.
So without TipWeb, we wouldn't be able to manage that. Especially another 18,000 coming in, right? So.
Yeah, that'd be a tall task for Excel spreadsheets.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Now, are you coordinating with other departments at all? Is this?
Say that again, Patrick.
Are you coordinating with other departments at all for the sort of the overall strategy? Have you guys maybe decided on anything specifically that you like? Anything?
So we have a town hall, a virtual town hall every 2 weeks with our techs, teachers. And so they're pretty involved in what's going on. We're very collaborative. Again, right now, we don't have a plan, so there's not really much to tell them except that, yeah, we have 18,000 devices coming in. The plan is to get the first 7,000 back into the schools to kind of alleviate their stresses and concerns from their administrators. And then Nick, I think the other plan for the 10,000 is to get those back into families, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I would also, not just on the student side, on the staff side, we took some of the lessons we learned from doing the mass distributions to students. We're going to try to apply when we get our yearly influx of teachers in August. Typically, we'll probably be bringing on around 300 new teachers or so in August. So some of the things we learned from the mass distributions through TipWeb is that, and some of the improvements you guys have all made, which has been really helpful, is, you know, that kind of auto, not to say auto assignment, but we'll be able to scan a device, have the teacher actually thumb sign it right on a tablet right in TipWeb. It'll attach it, send them an email receipt saying you've received this asset. It'll send them also our device agreement form, and then it'll record it as they own that asset. And then on the flip side, then we can put a due date in there now as well. So say we have teachers, you know, we already have a list of teachers that'll probably retire at the end of next year. We can put a due date of, you know, June 30, 2021 right in TipWeb, and they'll send them an automatic notification that they need to send it back with our pre-made templates. You know, some of those things weren't totally in place when we did the student distribution, because one of our struggles was we wanted to make sure that the parents got some sort of receipt and a device agreement form that stipulated the conditions of their device, that it's a property of Cherry Creek, you know, they had to maintain it if something broke, all of those things. But now we'll be able to do that directly in TipWeb, which we kind of had some separate processes in place for the students, but we'll be able to integrate that.
Cool. All right. All right, so now moving on to a subject that's top of mind across all districts, especially today, is sanitization. So we've partnered with an industry leader that's been around for 2 decades, a lot of commercial and enterprise level experience from hospitals to hotels and now schools. So they're more than qualified to help districts clean devices and buildings and classrooms, not just your sort of standard disinfecting process, but a complete sanitization that's conducted under guidelines actually set forth by the WHO, the CDC. We're ISSA certified, Clean Check certified. Materials that we're using are EPA approved and safe for both students and the environment. And you know, we're used to cleaning whether it's keyboards or ports, hinges, all those little nooks and crannies. And this cleaning solution as well is safe to use on electronics. And what's also neat about this is we can also help districts conduct a physical inventory while sanitizing. So sort of 2 birds with 1 stone. Obviously, the more efficient, the better, right? So you get that accurate baseline of what you have, and you know it's clean, and all this is done before you actually start handing devices out to students. So it's really a great way to get off on the right foot. When it comes to sanitization, have you guys planned anything around that for the fall? Put any thought into that?
No, we haven't. We've generally leveraged the service desk to do all of our cleaning and label removal, if you want to call it that. I just don't know what that looks like this year. And then too, again, with the fiscal outlook for most of K-12, we may be doing that again.
Yeah.
You're being modest. I think between the 2 of us, we each probably personally sanitized about 2,000 devices.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. 2,000 down, a few thousand more to go, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the big picture here is we just really want to help you maintain the health of your data, right? Whether that's the regular audits, conducting a physical inventory, literally keeping things healthy through sanitization, but also keeping it accurate and up to date, right? Not just within the inventory system, but also in your other district applications as well. And we can do that through integrations with your SIS, your MDM, fixed asset purchasing, as we mentioned. They're integrated with their student information system and perhaps their ERP down the road. All right, so now as we move on to sort of the last piece here, when it comes to planning, as we and Nick have mentioned, it can be tricky, right? Because districts are in a position where they have to plan where everything is just so uncertain and up in the air. You're sort of planning when there is no plan. But what we do know is we can help with certain aspects of that, right? Whether that's budgeting, forecasting, helping with refreshes, as was the case at Cherry Creek, model end-of-life dates, as Nick alluded to. Now, when it comes to reporting, any other specific types of reports that you guys are either using right now or plan to use down the road with TipWeb IT?
I think most of it is just the inventory. It's really easy for us to purchase devices because we basically historically use a student ratio to device, right? So if we know we're going to go 2 to 1 or 2.25 to 1, we can kind of figure out how many assets we're going to buy. The struggle we had, I want to say in 2017, was we're also going to update all of our projectors. Well, we had no inventory. Even schools didn't have an inventory. And so how do you budget projectors when you don't even know how many you have?
Right.
So the only way to do it is to go in and physically count, right? And
Yep.
and the struggle with that is, I don't know how other school districts are, but for us, we have the traditional classroom, right? You walk in, looks like a classroom. Then we have those non-traditional classrooms where you walk in and it was a conference room, but now it's a classroom. Well, when they want a projector in it, well, it's only 10 by 12. Is that really a projector or a flat screen, right? And then you have the music rooms and the band rooms. We have requests for, hey, we want to use part of this gym as a classroom. So those requests where we've had projectors that we never accounted for. So, TipWeb we didn't have TipWeb before, but I will say this: the next refresh for projectors or equipment like that, we know how many to purchase and where they're at and what kind of classroom or environment they're in. So now that kind of reporting will be definitely beneficial for us to, one, predict, forecast budgets, and even, as we try to get off of this buy equipment every 4 years, this bond budget life cycle, and move towards a annual refresh, when we start to get into the third or the quarter, that'll definitely help us to transition to that kind of model.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to budgeting, in Colorado, are you guys still sort of awaiting the final budget from the state?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know how other states are. The state can go, okay, it's $1 per student, to make it simple. It's $1 per student. So go ahead, and then come January or December, they can go, well, it's actually 95 cents.
Close enough.
Yeah, or whatever it is, right? So
yeah,
that just makes it more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. How's the chat box going, Chris? We good?
We are good.
All right.
Oh, did I lose the Zoom?
Can you still see the screen, Wade?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just went black on me, but okay, I'm good.
We're good. All right. So as we start to wrap up here, these are just a handful of districts that we serve out there in the Rocky Mountain area, Pacific Northwest, as well as California, from Spokane, Richland, the Olympic Education Service District in Washington, Fountain Fort Carson, and obviously Cherry Creek in Colorado, along with a few dozen others, right? So the theme here is we serve districts of all sizes, from, as I mentioned, single site charter schools all the way up to some of the largest in the country. But the point is, it's all very scalable and custom to this specific district. And in terms of who we are, this is just let's see, seven of us here help cover the Pacific and Rocky Mountain area here at Hayes. So we are your points of contact. I'm sure you see a lot of familiar faces, and I think we have time. So if you want to go one by one and introduce ourselves, feel free to take yourselves off mute and say hello. And then I believe we can start with Eric, because I think Blake had to hop off. If Eric's still on.
Yeah, I'm still on. How's it going?
Hey, Eric.
Hey. I kind of missed the last question you asked.
Oh, just wanted you to say hello and introduce yourself. We are.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Gaps. I'm with the Hayes team here. I cover Colorado, Ohio, and Michigan. I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. Actually, I went to CSU. Graduated from there, and now I'm with the Hayes team, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Good to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right. Tristan?
Hey guys, my name's Kristen Burrows. I've been with Hayes for almost 5 years now, and I cover the Northern California area as well as the state of Arizona.
Very cool. All right. Is Tim in the house?
Tim is in the house.
How's it going, Tim?
It's going well. Thank you, Patrick. I work in the Pacific region. I'm national account manager here with Hayes. Been with the company for just about 3 years, and I handle all of Southern California.
Yep. Cool. I think Ty also had to hop off, but he covers the Utah region and some of the other states there up in the Rocky Mountain area. But well, if again, if you'd like to continue the conversation, we'll happily put you in touch with the right person. Just simply to the marketing email that was sent, or just sales@haysoft.com.
There's a
Patrick,
question.
we did have a chat question that just came in. Gabrielle Snow is asking for have you had any issues with students losing devices, and how are you handling that?
So, yes, Nick, how many devices have we lost or stolen?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few. So, we did get got an insurance policy for damage, for devices like this got broken, and that's worked pretty well. The lost parts, it gets a little more tricky because it's insurance wants it to be like a forcible, like theft type loss, which is hard to prove. So we've had not so many so far, but at the same time, we haven't, as we said, we haven't asked to get those all back yet. We basically told our kids, keep them for the summer unless you're a graduating senior. The ones we did, we were very successful in getting them all back from departing seniors. But we've had a couple that have been lost so far.
Yeah, and I think our risk management team was trying to look out for the district, and they purchased this insurance policy. I think what they really bought was a repair insurance for us, which we could have done differently, just because of the loss coverage. I don't think they really understand K-12 and some of the idiosyncrasies that we have in our industry, right? One of our losses was a domestic violence case where the mother and the daughter had to leave the house rather quickly, and then when they went back to the house, the asset was gone with the dad, or the dad or the boyfriend, or something like that, basically the partner. And so those kind of losses we'll just probably eat ourselves, because we don't want to put any undue stress on that family already, of hey, go file a police report or write a statement up. We're just, what, you gave us the basics. We're going to be empathetic, compassionate, and just say, we're going to take care of you. We're going to take care of that asset. And that insurance companies just don't understand that kind of, those kind of problems that we have.
Gotcha. Good question, Gabrielle. Anything else, Chris, in the chat box?
Looks like that's it for now.
All right. All right. Well, before we close, I wanted to give the platform to Hui and Nick one more time. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we depart?
Nick, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I don't know. Yeah, so I've been with Cherry Creek since February. We've had a longer history of you, but from my standpoint, you all have been very responsive to our needs in terms of support. We get answers right away. I mean, if someone needs to, you jump on a conference call, work us through things. You took a lot of when we were moving all those 7,000 devices we gave out to students. They were all assigned individual classrooms, and you all basically moved them out for us and created a new student room. And you take our feedback really well, I'd say. Especially, I mentioned before about when we assigned out devices to students, we want to have a record associated with that and something put out to the parents. And now that feature is in TipWeb. So we'll be able to use that not only like we're going to use it in August for our teachers, but when we assign out devices to students going forward. So that's going to be a big automation for us, and it's going to save us a lot of time. So, in my short time with you, you've been highly responsive and addressing our needs as they come up.
Right. And to piggyback on that for Nick, what's nice is that we can kind of say, hey, this is the problem we have. What are other districts? How are they solving this problem? And so it's not just, hey, we have a problem, this is what we want to do. It's, hey, we have a problem. What are others doing and how are you helping them? Right. And you can see that, you're not going to, most likely not going to give us a single charter school solution, right? It's going to be, okay, you know what, your district's this big. These are what other school districts are doing to facilitate that problem or resolve that problem. And you can help us execute it. So I think it's not just helping with the execution, but also being solution providers for us, helping us to figure it out, right? And you've already got some proven track record with other school districts. And even, some gotchas that they've learned, so that we don't have to go through that pain point as well. So, and, without TipWeb 3 years ago, I think we would be in a different place. But again, Hayes has been very responsive, as Nick said. But to me, the biggest value is that, hey, what are other school districts doing? And I'm really going to miss our in-person user group meeting this year. Because I found that very valuable the last time of being able to go there and just talk face to face and say, hey, this is what we're doing. What are you doing to fix that? Or how do you manage this? So I know it's going to be virtual, but it's not the same because I don't get to hit anybody with a laser tag or.
Yeah, we'll have to take a rain check on that one, maybe in 2021. Yeah. But, well, great. We appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you, Hui. Thank you, Nick, for sharing your insight this afternoon. We got a lot out of it, and so we really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great rest of your week. Stay safe, be well, and we'll talk to you soon.